Hey everyone, hope they're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to go over uranium, do our daily technical analysis update. We'll jump right into the charts. Again, this is just my financial opinion. Please don't use it as advice. And guys, we're still there. We're still trying to break this resistance line. It is being stubborn, but we'll look at the charts. I'll give you my opinion, and maybe we'll break this thing here shortly. So here we go. Here is uranium. This is the physical price of uranium. If you draw the trend line in here, just to show you, we have broken this trend line to the upside. If I can draw it correctly. We broke it to the upside. We've been basically floundering around with some good volatility above it. But eventually, this is going to resolve upward, I think. We've got great valuations. We have a market balance that's favorable in terms of deficits. And I think we could see a large move eventually to the upside. Now, we've got this stubborn resistance line that we've been trying to break over time here. This is URNM. This is a weekly candlestick. Each candlestick is a week in length. We draw the trend line in there, and we've been trying to break it. We've got the lows that are higher stepping right into the resistance line. And all we're trying to do is break through this resistance line. It needs to get through this sticky area for an increased, we'll call it an increased rate of appreciation. But if we don't break it, we can also continue to ride this line higher just like we have. And if we don't break it, we might see a little bit of a pullback. Switching to the daily candlesticks, this is what the daily candlesticks look like. We do have, and we are running into some resistance here. These black candlesticks, what happens is you open up, it trades throughout the day, comes back, and it ends lower, but is still an up day. What that means is that the momentum is coming towards the downside a little bit. Now, we do have, I'll draw it in here just so you guys can see it. We're coming up on this resistance here. That's the pattern. And then we've got the lows that are coming up here. So we do have a little bit more room in the tip of this pattern to go. But we could break at any second here to the upside and see a good run. So that's what we're looking at. That's what we've got right in front of us. Is we're up on resistance on the weekly. And the daily, we are also up on resistance that we're trying to break. And we've got a little bit more room in case we pull back a little bit. I can't tell you the exact, what's going to happen over the next couple of days, but I think whatever it does do, it's going to do it here shortly. Probably over the next week or less. Camco, and when we look at these now, they're all going to be roughly the same. All the patterns are going to be very similar. They're trying to break out, and keep in mind, guys, these can break to the downside too. It's not just one way, like we're just going to go to the moon and have it be straight to the moon. These can break to the downside potentially, but some of them have already broken to the upside, so it does favor an upside break. And I'll show you which ones those are. Next Gen Energy, it's roughly the same thing. We've got this trend line that's coming up above it. On the dailies here. And you can just draw this trend line basically all the way through. And what we're seeing on the lows, if you look at the bottom side, we're seeing the lows step up and become higher and higher. And we may just trend higher below this resistance line. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's still an incredibly strong move. But Fission's also setting up, trying to break this 95 cent, 92 cent area. We've got the higher lows coming in, and I'm looking for a move to break to the upside here at any point. Sky Harbor's doing the same thing. It's coming up on resistance, and what we're doing is we're smashing up on the resistance. We're smashing, and the lows are getting higher and higher. And what's happening is we're squeezing into that resistance line. That's why the lows are coming up. A low, a low, a low. It's coming right into it. And we could bounce a little bit down before moving on up, but tomorrow could be a very big day. We'll see. It could, because you have this big up day, small down day, big up day, small down day, and then break through it. Here's CVVUF, Canalaska. We've got this resistance area all up here. We've got the lows coming up into it. It's also, if you chart this on a weekly candlestick basis, there's a big line coming through here as well. There's a lot of resistance here, and we may see a snap higher when it breaks through that resistance. Baseload, a little bit of a down day today. Maybe we see some further downside. This is a huge cup and handle pattern that looks like it's developing, and hopefully we can break to the upside. Maybe they're going to release some news on some of their findings of the uranium that they sent to the lab. Fingers crossed. Hopefully it comes back great. If it comes back great, I suspect that this would probably do pretty well. We've got Purepoint Uranium, another uranium exploration company coming through. Everything looks good. Nothing's out of whack. Nothing. It's just a little down day today. Everything's good. Nothing to worry about. Standard Uranium got its little move higher versus the rest of the sector. It's coming into some little bit of resistance up here with the wicks at the top. What that means is that we opened here, we came up, and then came back down and closed. But it looks okay. ISO Energy is coming into a little bit of resistance, the black candlestick. Again, if the entire sector sees a truckload of money get dumped into it, we could see this thing kind of break free. But we haven't seen it yet. We saw it, yesterday. Today we have a little bit of a weaker day. We'll see what tomorrow brings us. UEX, we've got this resistance up here, kind of through here. You can see it. There's the resistance in this area here. Every time it comes up, it hits it and hits it and hits it. And what's happening is you've got these lows that are stepping up. And every time we go to attack it, we hit it, we came back because of the selling pressure is greater here. We came up again and the selling pressure is less. We came up and the selling pressure is less. That's why the lows are higher. So I suspect that eventually what you're going to do is you're creating a pattern where your lows are coming up just like this, and you're coming up into this resistance area where you've got sellers. So it's sellers, 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 but each time it's getting less of a punch downward. And eventually I think we'll break to the upside here very soon. That is UEXCF. And we're seeing that on all these. This is Denison Mines. Denison Mines, now, keep in mind, this is, we can break to the downside potentially. I mean, it's not out of the cards. Everything isn't, cherry all the time, but just looking at how the lows are coming in and where the high is, this is somewhat of an ascending wedge. We could break to the downside. I'm not suspecting that. Don't take my words out of context, but it could. But there's a lot of momentum to the upside. There's a lot of other patterns that are potentially breaking to the upside. So I don't see why this wouldn't break to the upside. And the reason is we've got something like UU, which has broken to the upside. You draw this in here, and it's a break, and this could come back and retest the breakout. It could come back, retest, and then launch higher. But it doesn't have to. I'm just leaving that open. But it is a clear break. So UU looks good. UEC broke as well. This looks pretty good. It's getting out there. It's stretching its legs out a little bit after the breakout. And it could come back and do a retest back to where it had broken out. Where that broke out is down here. Well, it actually kind of did. It broke out, retested, and then now is taking off. So it looks really good. Looks really good. UROY, it's trying to join the group of UU, and UEC. We've got some resistance up here. It's playing with it. I do think that it'll eventually break it. What we have is a pattern that is the lows are stepping up, and that's what this pattern is. It's basically the lows are stepping up into it. It's marching higher, but we're coming into resistance above it. Here's the resistance it keeps hitting, and then we're going to break this. The projected move is the size of this guy here laid on top when it breaks. So I think we're going to see a break here. URG, if you look at the same pattern, we're hitting this resistance line up at $2 or so. and we'll see if it can eventually break it. With higher, these all have higher lows stepping up into it. Some resistance up here at $1.65, $1.60, somewhere in that range. We just got to break through it and keep moving. Bannerman looking good today. Nice solid up day. Bullish, piercing and bullish engulfing came down and moving on higher, so that looks good. Deep yellow's looking good. We kind of came back, consolidated to this point of the bullish engulfing pattern, and it resolved upward 7.55%. Big move up, slow leak off of sellers. Looks good to keep going. Forces metals, again, we've got resistance up here. These sellers, these pesky sellers up here. And who's selling Forces metals, guys? Why are you selling it? Put it in the comment section if you're selling any of these. Right in here, you can see the resistance all through this section in here. The thing that's real positive about this, big up days, small down days. So it's an uneven amount of buying pressure versus selling pressure. I think eventually this will break to the upside and resolve upward. Goviax, again, it's got some resistance up here itself. It's the same pattern as all the other patterns that we've got here. Basically, you've got like this flat line there, and then you've got the lows coming up into it. And we could go a little bit further to the right-hand side here before breaking, but we're real close to a break here. Same thing, global atomic. You can see the pattern. It's right here, coming on up, higher lows, right into resistance, looking for a break soon. Laramide's doing the same thing, just a much uglier pattern. It is an ugly pattern here, but it's the same thing as all the rest. Here's International Consolidated Uranium. Man, this thing is all over the place, but it's in an uptrend. So I suspect the uptrend's going to continue, so it looks good. Kazatomprom, it wanted to do a little bit different and went up today. Most of the others in the sector were down, but this is up, looking pretty good. Get a little bit of resistance up here with the wick. It looks good. Appia still, I think, if I were to take a look at Appia, I think we still have a little bit more consolidation left before we break. It tried breaking out today. It failed, came back, but I think eventually we'll break here very shortly. Very, very shortly. It's a nice big pattern to be breaking as well. Western Uranium. I know I haven't been going over this one. It's the same as all the others. Nothing different here. We've got higher lows stepping up. There's your trend line. And then we've got on the top here, let me put it like this. We've got this kind of pattern coming like that. So we're kind of coming up here, and hopefully we break to the upside. But that's what Western Uranium looks like. Peninsula Energy, we've got the big buying pressure and slow leak off of sellers. It's got that pattern going on. I think that looks great to continue up. Boss Energy's coming into, maybe it's the anti-boss, the kryptonite up here of the resistance. There's some resistance up here. Look at all these dark candlesticks. The black candlesticks where it opens up and closes lower, opens up, closes lower, and comes back. There's sellers up here, and it's trying. And the lows are stepping up into this resistance line. There's just sellers up there. Here's Lotus Resources. Bullish engulfing pattern here. A little bit of a black candlestick today. I suspect that this is probably maybe a small down day tomorrow and then head higher. But everything looks good in terms of the pattern and the way it looks. Same with Valera Metals. We might have a little bit of a down day tomorrow, but it's moving on up. The lows are making higher lows. Paladin Energy. Throwing in for Paladin, we've got the higher lows. You can see that kind of through here. It's not the prettiest of charts, guys, but it is what it is. It's trying to break through here. It's a little bit of resistance. That's why we have a wick at the top. But I think we're there to break. Eventually break this to the upside. But that's what I have for today for uranium. So overall, we're right there at the breakouts. Will we have a couple more down days left in it? Maybe. Maybe we have a couple more down days left before we see the break. Maybe not. I'm curious to see what happens tomorrow. Very excited. I really like uranium. It's a volatile sector, and that's what gets my juices going is volatility. That's where the big gains can be had. If you don't have volatility, you're not going to get the gains. It goes hand in hand. But overall, the overall sector, higher lows, stepping into resistance. We got to break the resistance. Are we going to break this resistance? Put in the comments section if we're going to break this stinking resistance, or are we going to ride along the resistance and keep bouncing off of it? Let me know what your opinion is. Like to hear it. I'm indifferent. As long as it's going higher, I don't really care. So if you like this content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.